Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be guiding you through some Yin Yoga sequences. For those of you unfamiliar with Yin Yoga, it is a very passive and restorative branch of yoga. So unlike traditional yoga classes where you might be moving through a pose or only hold a pose for 30 seconds, these ones we're going to be holding for upward of 3 minutes. So I want you to be as comfortable as possible. You can perform these on the floor. You can perform them in bed, which, because it is so restorative and relaxing, that will give you a very good night's sleep if you are performing them in bed. Because we are holding for so long, I want you to feel as relaxed as possible. So a comfy place. I want you to have some support. So you'll notice that I have a pillow here, if that's what you have, maybe 2 pillows, just so you have enough height in certain poses for some support. I do have a yoga block. If you don't have those, again, the pillows are fine. And then I also have a blanket here as well, just for some support for the knees and for the ankles in certain poses. With this being such a long and meditative type of class, I will only really be guiding you through 30 minutes, maybe a minute of each pose. And then I want you to focus on your breath and the stillness and your experience through those poses. So traditionally within yoga, you would take 30 seconds to find your happy place in the pose, to find where you're feeling that most resistance. And then you would focus on your breath and then find stillness in that pose. With that, finding the most resistance in your pose, these are meant to be passive and gentle. Some of these stretches can be very intense, and I don't want you forcing anything where you feel like you have to constrict your breath or you're feeling any amount of bone or joint pain. We're just looking for a very passive stretch. Yin is very good for restoring the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system that helps us relax and combat cortisol. Especially in these times, we need a lot of de-stressors. So I hope that this gives you some relaxation, some restoration to your muscles, to your myofascia, and just to your mental headspace in general. So we're gonna get started with focusing on the breath. So I'll get you to start seated on your mat or on your bed, wherever you're doing your yin class today. I'm gonna cross my legs. That's where I find my Sukhasana, my easy seat is, with my tailbone on the floor, hip bones on the floor. You could also sit with both feet on either side of you, with sit bones on the floor as well, wherever you find is most comfortable. Wherever you sit, make sure that you're standing up nice and tall, and then roll the shoulders up and then down away from the ears, so creating some nice length. And with your hands, you can have them like I have them, of palms open. I find that helps to open up the chest and shoulders a little bit more so I can get more air into my lungs. Or you could have them in prayer pose, wherever you would like, wherever you find is easiest. And then I want you to close over in the eyes. Closing over in the eyes, focus on your breath. Now that we've become comfortable, let's find that stillness. Once you've noticed a few inhales and exhales of your normal pace of breath, try to slow it down. We're gonna work on our Ujjayi breath, which is translated into Oceanic Breath. So it's a very audible breath through the nose, where you're constricting at the back of the throat. It may take some practice, but the focus here is to just go slow. So we're going to try to inhale for a count of 4. Hold at the top, and then exhale for 4. So counting in your head as you inhale, nice slow, 1, 2, 3, 4, feeling the ribs expand, shoulders come up. And then a nice gentle exhale through the nose. And continue with this counting on your own. And get used to this pace, because I want this pace to be the breath that guides you through each of these moments, each of these poses coming forward. With every inhale, counting to 4, think of that inhale as helping you to lengthen and expand. And then with the exhale, think of relaxing, sinking in a little bit deeper. You might experience that now and how it affects the lift of your shoulders and torso as you breathe in. And then as you exhale, everything sinking down, maybe feeling a little bit heavier as you sit on your mat or bed. I want you to focus on this breath just for 3 more rounds. Inhale through nose. Exhale through nose. Good. Once you've finished your final exhale, we're going to start our practice off laying down in Shavasana. Now that we've come in tune with the breath, I want you to become in tune with your body and how your body is feeling today. So coming all the way down at your own pace to lay on your back. And I recommend that your hands, palms come forward just to open up. That'll help you open up through the shoulders. And get comfortable. You can pull the shoulder blades in underneath of you. Maybe knock the neck side to side. Find that comfortable space for the back of your head. Maybe knock the feet side to side. See where they're most comfortable. Maybe turned inward, maybe turned outward. Taking those 30 seconds to adjust what you need. And then come back to that long 4-second inhale and exhale breath. And find your stillness and notice what your body is feeling. Notice where you might be feeling some tension. The most common places would be in the shoulders. Do you find that you are still kind of holding them up? Inhale. And then exhale, try to let them release and come down onto the mat even heavier. Another common place may be in the hips. You find that you're maybe squeezing through the thighs or the glutes. Try to repeat that of inhale, feel that tension. And then exhale, relax. You may also be feeling this in through the arms, maybe the toes and feet. And even through the forehead and jaw. Being mindful of maybe eyebrows scrunching together, try to release those. Try to drop the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. And then we'll take the next few rounds of breath to scan through the entire body. So let's start with your left side. So noticing how the left side of your forehead, face, jaw, neck, and shoulder are feeling in this moment. Let that scan travel down through the shoulder, through the rib cage, down into the fingertips, into the waist and into the hip, the left side of the pelvis, left glute and thigh, knee, shin and calf, ankle all the way down to the toes. Notice where you might find any tension and stiffness. And we'll take one long inhale, 4-second count in. And then exhale, try to release that left side. Focus on relaxing that left. And then we'll begin to switch it over to the right side. So do that same scan from top of head to tip of toes. Noticing all through the face, jaw, neck, shoulder, ribs and pelvis, fingertips, glute, thigh, knee, ankle, and foot. Do you find you're holding anything, any muscles engaged at this point? What can you relax on this side? What do you notice is calling for some attention? And then we'll do those rounds of breath of inhaling, feeling that length, maybe that tension. And then release all into that right side. Let it go. And then one more body scan of both sides now coming together for your entire body. Just for a few more minutes of listening to what it might want and need in this moment. What you think you may need to focus on throughout these poses going forward to release. And take 2 more inhales and exhales to acknowledge our body in this moment. Now, in your own time, we're going to begin drawing the knees up and feet are going to come up to planted. So just slide one leg up at a time. And we're going to come into a supported bridge. So you can grab a yoga block if you have one, or a pillow, or maybe 2 pillows. And then press into your heels, engage the glutes as you lift up your hips, and then I want you to slide that block or pillows underneath of your sacrum. That's the very lower part of your spine, right before the tailbone, almost in between the hip bones, the tip of the pelvis beneath you. And again, take those kind of 30 seconds to adjust, relax into the block or pillows. See how that angle works. You might want to shift it a little bit downward or maybe farther up. But the goal here is to feel your hips, your pelvic bowl completely supported by the block. And I want you to feel in that support that aid of extension in the lower back, and then that opening up across the hip bones, across the low belly. In these times where we're seated so much and slouching and not completely supported in the low back, this is a very great way to combat that constant slouching over in the low back and to extend and give it some support. And once you feel comfortable in it, just let your breath slow down again to that nice 4-second inhale and exhale. And try to focus on that breath and on that support on the hips. Try to feel that expansion, maybe even a little stretch across left and right hip bone on the front body. And then notice if you're feeling any muscle contraction in the inner thigh, and try to relax that. Just let the block completely support you and let the floor support your feet. And if you notice that you're maybe craving a little bit more expansion, especially across the front body, and a little bit more extension in the low back, very slowly, paying attention to how this feels, you can try extending the legs one at a time until in that same Shavasana pose, but with hips lifted. And if this is too intense for you, especially on the low back, then just come back to bent knee. That's fine. This is your moment to just listen to your body. We'll hold here for 3 more long rounds of breath to fully sink into this pose. After you've completed your last round of breath and last exhale, if you've extended the legs, just bring them in one at a time, nice and slow, until the feet are underneath of your knees. Press into the heels, lift up hips, and then very gently bring that block out from underneath of you and out to the side. And notice how your hips and back feel in this moment. You might want to knock the knees side to side and notice any differences. And then from here, we're going to go into a supine twist. So move anything, just might be around your arms, and then I want your arms out into a T. Palms can be upward, opening up the chest a little bit, or downward, maybe grounding you a little bit more, whatever you're needing and whatever feels good on the shoulder. And then one at a time, I want you to bring your knees up to tabletop position. Now, before we knock our knees down to the left side, I want you to pick up your hips and low back and just shift them over towards the right. So that's gonna help your hips stay nice and aligned with your spine as you knock your knees over gently and nice and controlled over towards the left. Nice long exhale to travel there. And just take those few initial seconds to feel out how this feels. And we're looking for a nice stretch, especially along that right arm, shoulder, and pec. And then a nice twist in the spine, mid-spine. And then I want you to feel that down along your right glute, hip, and maybe a little bit into the thigh. And if you can't get all the way down, if you have some mobility issues and your spine just doesn't want to do that, it's okay to have a block or pillow underneath that left knee to help support you. I want you to feel completely supported and comfortable in all of these poses. So whatever support you need, take advantage of that so that you can fully relax and sink in and let those muscles stretch passively. Now, if this pose is very easy for you and you might be craving a little bit more intensity, you could try twisted roots with the legs. So that top right leg, we can bring that over, and that calf can come underneath of the left thigh and knee for twisted roots, and that's gonna bring that right knee just down a little bit further to the floor. And then if you think you've lost it a little bit, come back to that nice long inhale and exhale. Feeling length and expansion in the inhale. And then complete relaxation in the body and muscle through the exhale. And to come to a full twist, it may feel good to look over towards the right. And take 3 more inhales and exhales in this twist. Trying to relax through the hip and shoulders in these last final breaths. And once you've completed those last 3 rounds of breath, exhale. So you very gently untwine the legs if they were twined together, and then come back through center with the knees and plant the feet, resetting the hips and spine. And maybe knocking from side to side, feeling that difference on the right side. Maybe it feels a little looser. Maybe those muscles feel tender from holding a stretch. And then we'll bring both the knees up again to tabletop, still keeping that T in the arms. And just like on the other side, we're gonna lift up and shift our hips towards the left, helping to keep our hips in line with our spine as we knock over towards the right. And I want you to take your time to notice how this side feels. It may feel a little bit tighter and have more resistance in the movement, or it may be easier to knock your knees over. And again, if you're having problems with your knees touching the floor, you can have a block or pillow underneath that right knee for comfort, just to let it rest and be supported. Try to relax through the shoulders. Notice if they're tensing, maybe rounding over or coming up towards the ears. Take a nice long inhale, and then exhale. Adjust what you need, maybe intertwine the legs. That left calf coming underneath the right knee. And look over towards the left. And then find your stillness. Go for 3 more inhales and exhales on this side. Once you finish those rounds of breath, in your own time, come back through center with the head. And very gently unintertwine the legs, come back through center. And feel the difference on this side. And bring your hands back to the side body. Maybe knock the knees side to side. And then we're going to transition into butterfly pose. So just relaxing through the shoulders. I want you to bring your feet together. Bottoms of feet, heel to heel, toes to toes, ball of foot to ball of foot. And then this is going to gently allow your knees to knock apart. So you should feel a very good stretch through the inner thigh initially. And if this is too intense for you, then more than welcome to have a pillow or a block underneath each knee. Take your time to adjust what you need to feel that support. Now, if you're very flexible in through the hips and inner thighs, what may intensify this for you is having a block underneath of the sides of the feet. And then that'll give you just a little extra room for those knees to fall apart. Now again, listen to how your body feels as you initially get into this posture. Feel if you need to bring your heels more in towards the pelvis, or if it feels like a good intense stretch to have them farther apart from you. And listen to what your hips, your knees, what your body is saying in this moment. You hold a lot of tension in the hips, in the inner thighs and low back. And so this opening pose is very intense, but is a very good chance for us to practice on our breath and in dealing with those intense feelings and situations. So as you find your stillness, relax through the head, shoulders, and in the jaw. Try to relax through the knees and in the glutes. And with every exhale, try to feel and embrace that relaxation of knees falling apart. And if you're starting to feel any sensation in the low back, that's perfectly normal. And it's completely attached to the top of the pelvis, and you're getting some stretch laterally and extension there. And just focus on the exhales, trying to relax and work through that stretch. And then I want you to count out 5 more rounds of long inhales and exhales. And once you've completed your 5, you can use the assistance of your hands to very slowly and gently bring the knees back up together. You can remove that block from underneath the feet. And then I want you to bring your knees in towards your chest. So we're going to round over through the lower back. And then whatever you need to reset, maybe rocking side to side, massaging the back, massaging the hip. And then just very briefly, we're gonna bring our knees to the sides of our torso and open up through the hamstrings and through the hips just a little bit more and come into happy baby. So for happy baby, you can grab onto your ankles or maybe onto the outsides of your feet. If you don't have socks on, you could grab onto your big toe on either side. And then very gently, just bring the feet up. So this is a gentle stretch for the hamstring. And I want you to notice maybe your lower back is rounding over. Maybe just grab on to the ankles if that's happening and just extend the lower back. Again, very gentle with these stretches. And I welcome you to rock back and forth. Maybe that still feels good on the lower back and in through the hips. Maybe if you're finding stillness, you can try to bring the knees in a little bit closer to the armpit or sides of the waist with every exhale. I had one yoga instructor who in every YIN class would instruct us to go into full happy baby pose. And to get the full experience out of this stretch was to smile. Because you have to make sure you're a happy baby through this. One more inhale and exhale. And then you can bring the toes together, bring the knees back in. And then very gently, I want you to start rocking back and forth. Maybe toes coming to mat eventually. Until you come all the way forward into a seated position. And then I'm gonna get you to come into more of a kneeling position. So we're gonna start stretching through the top of the hip flexors in saddle pose. And we're gonna start on our left side. So we're gonna be focusing on the left side hip flexors with one foot. That left foot is gonna come to the side of your hip. So your toes might tuck underneath of your hip bones a little bit. And then your right leg is going to be extended out. Now from here and sitting up tall, I want you to place your hands behind you and your fingertips are gonna face the back of the room. Once you get that lean back, I want you to lift your hips up and really actively tuck your tailbone. So maybe a little bit of a glute squeeze there as well. So this is gonna cause some nice extra extension on the front of the hip. Again, since we are seated and our hip is in flexion so much, we're in that 90-degree angle of the hip bone and the femur. This is a very good counteraction to that move or to that position that we're in so much. Now, depending on your flexibility and how tight your hip flexors are, maybe this lean back, staying more upright is enough for you. That is perfectly fine. Or maybe you have the extra room in you and you're craving that extra extension to come down onto your forearms through the movement. But throughout this, I want you to keep that nice tailbone tuck and think of your knee coming down towards the mat. I'll give you some extra intensity as well. Now, if you can relax here and close over in the eyes, and you're still craving just a little bit more extra stretch on those hip flexors, or maybe you've been holding for a while and you're ready to progress a little bit longer, you can come all the way down very gently onto your back while still keeping that tailbone tuck, knee towards the mat extension. And then keep focusing again on that breath. And feel that exhale travel down from that hip bone all the way to the knee, releasing and relaxing. And if you're anyone who may have knee issues and this position of your leg is too hard for you, a modification would be to roll onto your side while grabbing onto your ankle. And then just keeping that same kind of tailbone tuck and extension. Maybe even pulling that leg a little bit more behind you. So if you're feeling any bad sensation in the knee joint, then you just roll over to your side and try to extend the hip flexors through that. Otherwise, just try to relax in this laying supine position. And we'll hold here for 3 more inhales and exhales. Once you've finished your round of breath, we're going to slowly make your way up if you are laying down, all the way back up to a nice tall seated position. And then we're gonna work still on this left leg, but working on the shin and on the top of the foot. I know through these times, a lot of people have been out running, causing a lot of extra tension on the shin and on the feet. And then also our legs and ankles, our feet and ankles are in that flexion a lot. So this is gonna be a good extension. Might feel very intense, so be gentle with it. If you are on more of a hard surface, if you're not practicing on a very cushioned mat or on your bed, I'm gonna recommend you fold up a blanket or a very narrow pillow. And I want you to just kind of shift over and put that underneath of the left foot, just so it supports the top of your foot. And then keep that right leg extended. Maybe have that blanket underneath the hip bones a little bit too. Now for this one, I want you to come up a little bit more and bring that heel and top of foot a little bit more underneath of the hips. And you can either keep this right leg extended as you lean back, or you can keep it more bent as we bring this left knee up and try pointing the toes underneath of you. So be very gentle with this movement. It's gonna feel different for each person and on each side that we try, as we extend through top of foot and all through the shin. We're just gonna lean back until you find that point of resistance. And then without forcing, just relax there and breathe. You can stay closed over in the eyes, or you can pick a spot on the wall or floor to stay nice and focused on as you breathe. And if you find your shoulders are coming up, try to drag them back down away from the ears. Just relax to the torso. We'll hold here for 3 more inhales and exhales. And then very gently bring that knee right back down. Bring that left leg back in front of you, maybe roll around the ankle a little bit more. Feel how that extension feels on that left leg. Now that we've had a good long stretch on it. And then you can remove the blanket from underneath of your hips if you want. We're going to move on to the right side. So that same saddle pose that we did, I want your right heel to the side of your hips. You can shift over so your sit bones are nice and planted and you're seated up tall. Left leg extended. And then start leaning back, fingertips to the back of the wall. And just like we did on the other side, lift those hips up, squeeze glute, tuck tailbone. Notice how this side feels. Does it feel tighter? Is staying upright here perfectly enough for you right now? Is that enough of a stretch? Or are you craving a little bit more intensity, a little bit more stretch, and can come down to your forearms? Wherever you are, focusing on the quality, on your tailbone staying tucked in, getting that extra stretch down the front of the thigh, knee almost reaching for the bottom of your mat. And again, if this is causing you any issues, you're more than welcome to roll over to your side and grab onto the ankle and create that extension on the thigh that way. Wherever you are, try to find that limit and then find your stillness. And every exhale, being sent down to release from that top of hip bone to the cap of the knee. And we'll hold here for 3 more inhales and exhales. And once you've completed your 3 in your own time, come all the way up. And we'll do that ankle stretch on our right side. So maybe dragging that blanket underneath of you again, underneath of the hip and top of foot. And then feeling out this side, maybe you want your leg to stay extended. Maybe you want to keep it bent up. Wherever you are, tucking that foot a little bit more underneath of the hip, just so it has a nice base as you lean back and then lift up that right knee. Let me keep my leg extended. And just with any single-sided movement, feel how this side feels. Maybe you can come back a little bit further than you did on the left. Maybe it's a little tighter and can only come up a few inches. Yin is not about how flexible you are and how wide your range of motion may be. It is about each individual's limit, finding their stillness there, and breathing. And about just simply relaxing through the muscles and tissues and joints. And just finding your individual, unique comfort. As we breathe here, extending the front of foot and shin, maybe you can bring the knee up a little bit closer towards the chest with time, very gently. And we'll hold here 3 more inhales and exhales. And then gently bringing that knee back to the mat, walking your hands forward. And then you can remove that blanket from out of underneath of you. Now we've worked on the front of the leg. We're gonna focus a little bit more on the back and the hamstrings, a little bit of a lower back sensation as well. So half dragonfly, I'm gonna get you to start with your left leg extended out to the thigh or side. And then your right foot should come to the inside of the thigh, maybe just above the knee, wherever you find is most comfortable. With that knee, if you can't find comfort in just letting it hang, you could have a block or pillow underneath of you. And then I want you to start off sitting up nice and tall. And then just simply rotate the chest a little bit towards that left foot. You can have your toes pointed towards you. You can have them relaxed, whatever's gonna feel best for you. And then keep a slight bend in that knee, just so we're not hyperextending. As we very slowly, walking the hands forward, bend over that left leg. Now as we bend over, I want you to just relax your back. We're not focusing on a flat spine right now. You can round over in the head, letting the chin tuck. And I want you to be feeling this through the hamstring, especially up and towards right underneath of the glute. But then I want you to also feel this on your right lower back, right above the hip. It's a very nice passive stretch for the side body. You might even feel it up and throughout the waist and the ribs. And just stay weighted down in that right sit bone as well, just so you can create that extra extension on the right side. Just make sure your shoulders are pulled back, relax down. And over time, ideally, I would want you to, as you exhale, relax and try to fold a little deeper. But again, not forcing anything, just relaxing into the stretch. And we'll hold here for about 6 more rounds of breath. And then once you've completed your breath, you can slowly bring the head up. Come all the way back through center. And notice that extension throughout the right side, maybe in through the leg, before switching sides. So left foot is going to come into the inside of the right thigh. Shift through the hips, sit up nice and tall. Again, that right foot, toes can be flexed, or just relax, keeping that same little slight micro bend in the knee. Nice strong inhale to lengthen through the spine, and then exhale, we'll start to shift, twist our torso towards the thigh, and then walk forward. Nice and slow with the hands, feeling out this leg, how this side is responding to this. Again, staying nice and grounded in that left hip, that left sit bone is nice and strong into the floor. As we extend through that right side and bend down, round through the spine, tuck the chin, and breathe. And again, with every exhale, thinking of melting into the pose just a little bit deeper. Not forcing anything, but just letting everything just relax. And go for about 5 more rounds of breath, in and out through the nose. And then once you've finished your breath, slowly plant the hands and come all the way up. And standing up nice and tall through the spine. And then bring that foot underneath of you. We're gonna come onto all fours just to reset the spine a little bit, get some movement through it, through cat-cow, before coming all the way down into our stomach. So cat-cow, I want your hips over top of your knees, maybe tucking the toes, maybe letting them be long. And then hands underneath of the shoulders. And we're gonna start off with a nice long inhale. As we arch the back, hips point upward toward the ceiling, head comes upward, feeling that arch through the spine. And then exhale, round everything over, round low back, round mid back, upper back. Feeling a nice stretch, tucking the chin. Feeling your hands almost press the mat away from you, really rounding over throughout the shoulder blades. And then again, inhale, extend, arch spine. And exhale, rounding over. And in your own pace, I want you to do 3 more rounds of this. Arching low back, mid back, opening up through the throat, looking upward, And then rounding over, nice and slow, feeling every part of your spine moving throughout these 2 poses. And then once you've completed your 3, just come back through neutral, through that nice spine, flat spine. And then you can just slide your legs out long, come down to your forearms, and we'll come all the way to a prone position on our floor, maybe bed or mat. And you can have one ear to one side. So just resetting in a nice neutral spine, feeling the legs, hips, belly, shoulders supported. You can just let your shoulders round over onto the floor. Just pausing here for a moment. And then we're gonna come into a Sphinx pose. So this is a pose that really works on extending the lower back, so you'll feel some sensation there. You will feel some work and strengthening in the triceps as well. For this one, I want your elbows to be directly underneath of your shoulders. And then your forearms should be planted, palms should be planted as well. Just about shoulder distance apart. Now from here, your chest is lifted here. You're gonna feel that sensation in the low back since it is arching. And we are going to stay in this position, holding here, digging fingertips into mat, feeling supported just by our arm bones. As you tuck the chin, let the forehead fall. And then you'll probably feel some extension down through the shoulder blades, in through the neck, and right into the nape of the neck, right where your skull meets the spine. Now, if this is too intense for you, or maybe as you hold this, you feel too much sensation in the triceps, you can grab a pillow or your block, maybe a couple pillows, and you can put that directly underneath of your chest, maybe even the top of the rib cage, just as something to help support you as you hold this for a period of time. And then if that extension on the back of your neck is too hard or too intense for you, another modification that I would have you do is put a block underneath of the forehead. So at any level that your block can turn to, maybe you can stack some pillows over top as well, and just let your head be heavy on that. Whatever variation you do, let's try to find that stillness now of breathing, relaxing the glutes, letting the low back arch. Feeling completely supported by the arms. And feeling back of neck. Get that much needed extension and relaxation. If you find your neck is craving some movement, you can very gently knock each ear from side to side and hold for a count of 3 breaths on each side. Let's try right ear to right shoulder, extending, still keeping the chin tucked.
And then you can very slowly come back through center and let that left ear come towards the left side. Tucking chin in towards the chest. And breathe for 3 inhales and exhales. And you can come back through center and we'll hold center for 3 more rounds of breath. Notice if your shoulders may have come forward a little bit. Try to extend those upward or back rather. And then after you've completed your breath, you can come all the way down with your chest, have your arms out to your side. If you remember which side your neck was angled on last time we were down full supine, try to get to the other ear. Just twist the neck to the other side with an exhale. Nice inhale here. And then I'll exhale, get you to come to the other side, other ear. Now in this position, we're going to work on our hips and lower back again in half frog pose. With this pose, you can have your arms in a tabletop position or you can have them out to the side, whichever works for you. But I'm gonna get you to bring your left knee up about parallel in line with that hip. So this is just a very passive stretch here. So open up through the inner thigh, open up through the back and hip. And if you find this is just a little bit too passive for you, you could take a pillow or block and put it underneath of that hip out to the side. That's just gonna create some extra length and extension. And of course, the higher up your block or pillow, then the more stretch and sensation you'll feel. And just feeling the relaxation here. Notice if your shoulders are kind of bunching up, let them just roll forward to the mat. And although our chest is compressed with the mat underneath of us, try to still stick to that slow expansion in the inhale and exhalation, emptying the belly. I'm gonna hold here just for 3 more seconds, or 3 more rounds of breath rather. And then on your last exhale, I'm going to get you to drag that knee backward to reset. And then you can turn and lay your other opposite ear on the floor. And we're going to repeat that on the other side. So maybe dragging that block or pillow over towards your right. Arms in a tabletop, or they could be at your side if that feels best for you to round over in the shoulders. And then we're gonna bend that right knee up in line with the hip, opening up. Maybe at this level, that's enough intensity for your knee and for your hip and low back. Or maybe you just want a little extra lift and you can put a pillow or two or your block underneath of the knee, underneath of a bit of the thigh to help support. And then just focusing on those long inhales. And exhales. Three more rounds of breath on this side. And then you can very slowly bring that right leg back. Come through center with the forehead if you like, or to the other side of opposite ear. Put that pillow out to the side. And then I want you to transition into child's pose. So hands can be just underneath the shoulders, helping to just push you up, peel you off of your mat. So you're at about all fours. And then I want you to sink your hips back while keeping your big toes together. Now there are a couple of variations of child's pose you could do. You could have your knees a little bit wider on either side of your torso, or if your lower back is feeling that it needs a little bit more attention, you can try having them a little bit more together. That's gonna completely round over your spine a little bit more. Now from here, you can extend your arms out to the side, reaching for the top of your mat as you round over and place your forehead on the mat. Or you can have them out to your side and let your shoulders round over. That might help with rounding over the spine even more. Now this is a very good chance to really tune back into that breath. We are compressed in the chest, but I want you to try to experience that expansion in the inhalation and that rest and relaxation in the exhalation, all through the back body. So as you inhale, picture that breath traveling from the bottom of the tailbone at the base of the spine, all the way up into the nape of the neck, maybe even the crown of the head, creating that extra length in the spine. And then as you exhale, feeling the belly fall onto the thighs and all of that tension releasing from the spine. Every exhale, maybe feeling the hips sink a little deeper in to the heels. Maybe the shoulders folding forward a little bit more. And if you're having any knee pain in this position, or your hips are unable to get down to your heels, you can place a block or a pillow underneath of the back of the thigh or on top of the shins. Play around with where you're comfortable there, and then that gives that good support for your hips to fall down, and then try to relax from there. See how that modification might feel for you. We'll just relax here for about 5 more rounds of breath. And once you've finished your 5th and final exhale, you can bring the hands back underneath of your shoulders and come all the way up. And we're going to finish off on our back, laying down. So you can bring the knees forward, hips underneath of you. And then we meet back in Shavasana, right where we started. And I want you to do that same scan of left side up through right side. And I want you to notice any changes in how your body feels now after we have taken the time to stretch and relax. Notice if those joints or muscles that were holding so much tension have relaxed at all. If you're feeling any extra length. And even in the breath, if you feel your inhales and exhales have just become easier after practice. Maybe the mind feels a little quieter. We'll finish off with 3 inhales and exhales to completely relax and acknowledge our practice. And then in your own time, you can bring your knees in towards your chest. Roll over to your right into fetal position. And gently press yourself upward, taking your time to come all the way back up to your easy seat. And that concludes your yin practice for today. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this for yourself. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you continue to practice and give your body this relaxation that it needs. Have a great day.